Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weishuhn. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramid Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smoking techs, electric smokers, feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, thank you, guys and friends. It is Campfire Talk time with Mr. Larry Weishuhn. Larry is right here with me, and I thought we would have some fun this morning, maybe talking about how things used to be when Larry and I were boys, which was a long, long time ago. Hunting and fishing has changed a whole bunch, though, in Texas, all over, actually. Right, Larry? Thank you for being here, by the way, buddy.
Always a pleasure. And you're right. Things have really changed. I happened to give a talk not very long ago to the Texas Outdoor Writers Association and their annual convention down on the Texas coast. And that was kind of one of the things that I kind of touched upon of how things have changed over the years, and particularly in terms of the amount of game that's available and hunting, the type of hunting that we do, how we hunt, the increases in technology compared to what it used to be. And, when I first started hunting, you're right. It's been many, many years ago, several lifetimes for some of our listeners when you get right down to it. But, we didn't wear camo back then. There was no, there was a little bit of World War II camo, and the clothing that we wore a lot of times, I wore Army surplus wool shirts and those kind of things when it was cold. And, the technology and clothing has increased a whole lot. But my first firearm back then, of course, 22 rimfires were legal. And my first deer rifle was a Remington Model 33 single shot 22. Those things are illegal. That was actually the first bolt action that Remington had ever come out with. Very few people had scopes. Very few people had binoculars. Rangefinders were what you did within your mind in looking at something. And, all those kind of things have changed. And be honest about it, back then we had a lot of people who were good at woodsmanship. Over the years, it seemed like, from that perspective, we've taken what used to be between your left ear and your right ear and put it at a fingertip to where now you got to push. You don't have to do a whole lot of thinking along those lines. So there have been a lot of changes, including particularly in terms of equipment.
Well, Larry, hold that thought. I want you to take a minute here and brag on all the people that make it possible for us to do Campfire Talk. Then we're going to kick back off and talk about how things were back in the day. So the mic is yours, buddy.
I appreciate that, because our segment is brought to everybody by DSC, Conservation Education Hunter Advocacy, the finest conservation hunting organization there is in the world. Hornady, accurate, diddly, dependable. Of course, when we're talking about Hornady, started in about 1940 something and other, and so they've been around since those years we're talking about. Stealth Vision, which produces the finest hunting optics, whether it's scopes, spotting scopes, binoculars, or even red dot sights, those kind of things, put out there by Dr. John McCall and his guys at Crockett, Texas, not too far, kind of halfway between you and where you and I live.
Yep.
And then, of course, Taurus. Now, Taurus has been around for a long time, and as a lot of people know, I love to hunt with handguns. My favorite handguns are those Taurus Raging Hunters and 44 Magnum, 454 Cthulhu, and others. But then too, Choctaw Hunting Lodge. Oh my God, the finest place in the world as far as I'm concerned. So, all those as I talked about those, DSC has been around for 40 plus years now, and Hornady have been around longer than that. They, I think, just had their 70th or 75th anniversary or whatever it was there not very long ago. And so, lots of good things out there going on.
You bet.
Things have changed.
Things have changed. And you mentioned in your first, my second firearm was a J.C. Higgins 22 single shot. I wish I had not got rid of that thing when I was a teenager, but I did. I remember it had a knurled bolt, and you pull that bolt back.
That's the way this one is.
And I remember when I got that when I was about 9. I'll tell you in a bit about the first firearm I had, but I remember how hard it was to pull that thing back. I mean, they did have a hard spring on them, especially for a 8 or 9 year old kids, you know. but I'd get it back, and then I'd wear those squirrels out. But my first firearm was a Mossberg 410 bolt action, and that was one that had the built-in magazine where you slid the shell, pushed the shell down from the top. And my Uncle Jack Connor, he was worked for Diebold Safe and Lock Company. He traveled. He was one of their main guys. He traveled all over the country working in banks and installing new upgraded systems, you know, bank vaults and things like that. That's what he did. So he came through one time, and he had that little Mossberg 410, I never will forget, and a whole box of shells, which was, you know, back in those days, shells were a rare. You didn't go out and blast up 25 shells at a tin can back then. No, you didn't. I didn't. No. So anyway, I never will forget standing on the bank of our little old pond. We had about a 1/2-acre pond there on the place where I grew up, and I stood on the bank of that and shot down into the water. I remember thinking, oh man, this thing kicks. I mean, you know, it's a 410, and I was almost afraid to shoot it, but I got accustomed to it. So I killed a bunch of squirrels with that gun. If I ever find I found the same Mossberg shotgun in 20 gauge at my friend's pawn shop in Seagoville, Texas. But I want a 410. That was, if people that are familiar with those old Mossbergs, the safety, it was ideal for a kid. It had a little red plastic-looking dot, and then a red one, and then a green one, right there where the lever was to move it from safe to fire. Ideal firearm for a youngster. But I wore the quail out. I didn't shoot many in the air, but they better not get on a straightaway running away from me when I was a kid. And that was my first gun, and then the little 22, the J.C. Higgins was my second one, and by then I'd learned a little bit, you know, BB guns. I'd shot rifles enough to kind of get the basic premise of it, but that's how I started. And Larry, you know, we're talking, folks, in 1958, I was 8 years old. So that's the time frame that I'm talking about. And it wasn't like here's a box of 22 longs. Or used to it was 22 shorts, longs, and long rifles, right, Larry? You know?
Yes, sir. You're exactly right.
Now I haven't seen a box of shorts or longs. I haven't. Maybe they don't even make them. I don't know. But it's all long rifles, and that's good. But, you know, it wasn't like take these 22 shorts and go out there and shoot a can. No, it was like, they might be a box, but you better save them and use them for squirrels and rabbits and stuff, right? You just didn't. That was back then. And Larry, deer hunting, we lived on 30 acres. I grew up we had a little bit more than that, but I know my dad gave my grandfather a few acres, and when he moved from a cabin up in Red River County to a frame house there, this was back in probably the early 50s. But deer, I remember vividly a buck. I had the measles or something in the wintertime. It was about January. And behind our house, we had a hay meadow about, 20-acre coastal Bermuda. On the chicken, my dad raised poultry, and he put that chicken manure on there, and all those ranchers were hot to trot to get that hay, you know.
Absolutely.
They were, they almost fought for it. But I remember, look, I was homesick, you know, with the measles or something, and I looked out the back window. You could see down between the two chicken houses back into that meadow, and to this day, I think it was a big buck. I mean, to me back then it looked huge, but it was a high antlered big old buck come through, and man, that lit a fire. That was the first wild deer I ever saw in my life. And there were very, very few deer back in those days, Larry. And I know it was the same way down in southeast Texas where you lived, right?
It was, because I grew up about halfway between Houston and San Antonio, and a little bit closer to Houston. But, you know, you're right. We had the deer season open November 16th. It closed at dark or whatever it was on December the 31st.
Yep.
And back in those years when I first started hunting, my God, if you saw a deer track, you were just thrilled, no end. If you actually saw a deer, oh my God, it's even better.
Yeah.
And whoever shot a deer in those early years in our area, I mean, he was a hero for the entire community, for that little rural community of Zimmerzeit. For weeks, if not months, kind of thing. And then we finally got rid of the screwworms back in the late 50s and early 60s and into the middle 60s. But when that happened, though, that deer population across Texas and across the southeast actually just really started blossoming. And all of a sudden we had deer. And then we went from not having any deer to having way too many of them. And then finally they started managing them a little bit, you know, in terms of taking those and bucks kind of thing. And things really changed. But, yeah, it was a different time. You know, these days, almost anybody that goes deer hunting, they really expect not only to see a deer, they expect to take a deer. And back then, you just hope you got to see one.
Larry, was the eradication of the screwworm, was that the major thing for the deer boom that took place really? Looking back, of course, I lived through it. The mid '60s, they started getting more and more plentiful. And in the '70s, East Texas was loaded with deer. You know, was the screwworm? Was that a major factor? I guess it was.
It was a major factor, because you just didn't have any fawns that hardly survived. And of course, after a while, you didn't hardly have any deer because of that. But the screwworm is the larval stage of which we've got it back in Mexico, and there's a tremendous amount of work being done now to prevent it, to try to keep it out of Texas, and then should it get here, to try to control it. But it's a flesh-eating larva, and what happens is they lay eggs on any kind of wound, and a lot of time that meant where the navel cord was, and those screwworms will literally eat those fawns from the inside out, kind of thing. And so once they figured out that a screwworm female fly only mated one time and then laid eggs, and so they applied trying to think of the term, I just lost the term here, but radiation.
Yeah.
And so they applied radiation to billions of flies and dropped them. And so essentially they kind of bred the screwworm out of existence for a long time, particularly here in Texas and the northern edge of Mexico. But they were over into, all the way across the southeast. When that happened, we finally started getting some reproduction. Then when we started getting reproduction too, about the same time, there was still a fair amount of trapping and relocating of deer being done to restock some of the areas where they previously had deer. Well, with the screwworm gone, then the fawns that were born in those areas, and that's really, when you get right down to it, is when it was because of the eradication of the screwworm, along with people paying attention and a little bit of stocking. That's what brought the deer population back throughout the South.
Well, Larry, hold that thought. I'm being told we need to take a quick break, but let's come back. Okay. We haven't had enough time. We want to talk about how fishing was back in those days, and some more stuff. So stick with me, folks. We'll take a break. We're coming right back. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weishuhn is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Luke, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34-millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on. That scope is level because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well too, and a whole lot of other products. And folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
if you enjoy hunting, I want to hook you up with Ultramatic Feeders. You need to know about this company. The website is ultramaticfeeders.com. They are a one-shop stop for everything you need with hunting blinds. They have all kind of different brands of hunting blinds, game feeders, parts for feeders. Again, the website is ultramaticfeeders.com. And friends, I've been using Smoking Tex electric smokers for over 15 years, probably closer to 20 years. You can go online to smokingtex.com. They're not one of your throwaway electric smokers that you can find at some package stores. These things are made to last. I've got one that I've been using for, well, that length of time, probably 15 years. Check them out online, smokingtex.com. Well, friends, we are back with Mr. Weishuhn, and we just didn't have enough time to cover all the little topics that we wanted to cover. Larry, we talked about hunting and the whitetail deer recouping and coming back in the 60s and 70s, and gave our friends a little bit of an insight what it was like back in those days hunting. Squirrel hunting, quail were everywhere up in northeast Texas back in those days. Fishing, though. I grew up, my parents were serious fishermen, bass fishermen. My dad did not even own a rod and reel. We fished with what we call cane poles, and it wasn't river cane as a rule. I mean, they would buy bamboo poles. I mean,
right.
I mean, they would buy but we would also cut river cane to use in the creek to bait with cut bait and catch catfish. We'd cut the bigger river cane, and they make a great pole too. But they were bass fishermen, and my dad, the mainstay back in those days was shiners, minnows, they call them. They were out of Arkansas, and we would go by, they would go pick up, and keep them in our pond in this little live well thing. Excuse me, but they would keep those shiners and fish with a cork and a shiner with a little weight above him, and caught a lot of bass. My dad and mother owned a country store, before, well, I was just a little bitty kid. Excuse me. And so they knew everybody in Red River County. And there was no keys to gates back then. You just drove up and went fishing wherever we wanted to, honestly. And imagine all those tanks and ponds and all back in those days. So that's how they fished. My mother had an old Pfluger rod and reel, a knuckle buster that with no anti-reverse. In other words, when that line went out, that that handle turned, thus the name Knuckle Buster. And she had one lure that I remember. It was a baby Lucky 13 topwater plug. And my job when I was little is if she'd hang that thing up on a willow limb or something, and my job was retriever. I would get that one way or another. I'd get that lure back for her. But that was bass fishing. I mean, and we did a lot of it. Mine was just with a cane pole with a cork and a shiner. But we did some catfishing too. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Cummins Creek, am I right? Is that the name of it?
You're right. Cummins Creek.
Cummins Creek.
Exactly
We had what we call the Pecan Bayou within walking distance, and you had Cummins Creek. You used to fish that as a boy, didn't you?
I really did. Cummins Creek is there in Colorado County, and adjoining counties runs into the Colorado River, actually not too far out of Columbus. Yeah, my granddad had a place that was on the bend of the Cummins Creek, and so he had about, I'm looking back trying to remember, probably had about 3/4 of a mile or so of that creek. I remember there were 9 springs that ran into that creek. Where we fished, and of course we fished with earthworms. I grew up on our little place out in the country. My granddad was a county commissioner. He would come by before I started school, before I went to school, and we would go dig worms. And if it was fishing time, we would. And any time was fishing time as far as he was concerned. He'd pick me up. We'd dig worms. We'd go out to the county barn. He was a county commissioner. We'd get the guy started. We'd run by the first little creek, and often it was going back to Cummins Creek, and we would fish for for perch. And back then, the way I didn't know what a bass was because everybody called them trout where I grew up.
Really?
So,
Yeah.
and that and catfish and so the fish a lot of times we did have some willow poles, but we had some cane poles, but we also had some poles that made out of a willow limb kind of thing as well too. And I mean, my greatest memories were of that. I remember, and then of course I started reading or saw pictures in Outdoor Life of rod and reels, and lusted after those things. And but I can remember the first fish that I caught on an artificial lure at way back when. Oh my gosh! I had read something about streamers, trout streamers kind of thing, or salmon, and somehow or another I found one of those flies and I tied it onto. I had the rod and reel I had at that time. I can't remember who the maker was. Pfluger may well have been. It was a metal rod, and I was on a little bridge with cousins of mine, and I dropped this fly down into the water from the top, and my God, caught probably about a half-pound perch. It may have been a bluegill or a warmouth or a green sunfish. I can't remember exactly what
perch,
it was.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, it was a perch. And so, man, I was hooked after that. And when I was giggling a while ago, and you said that, there was a heading Lucky 13 or Tiny Lucky 13, probably because back in heading and gosh, I had every time I had a chance when I wasn't buying ammo for, like we're talking about, for 22s or whatever, if I could save up enough money to buy a fishing lure, I did. So, but those, God, and then finally got a little bit later in life, got into fly rod fishing as well too, and I had read about fishing for bonefish, and that Cummins Creek that you mentioned was where I fished was not real deep. It was in running water, and there were worlds of suckers. And I bought some of the very first flies that Cabela, Jim and Dick Cabela used to have about a half-inch ad in the classified sections in the back of Sports Fields, Outdoor Life, and Field and Stream, which I read religiously. And for $1, you could get 6 flies. Well, I had saved up enough money to get 6 flies, and I found that you could take a fly rod and drop that fly out in front of where you could see those suckers coming along, kind of feeding on the bottom. They'd suck that fly in, and oh my God, the fight was on, and I was Joe Brooks, who wrote for Outdoor Life.
Yeah.
Fishing for bonefish.
But that's the way it was. The first artificial bait, other than, I never really used that, my mother's Lucky 13. I was afraid because I didn't want to lose that thing.
Absolutely.
No, I never fished with that. But Nick Cream came out with the first plastic worm.
Yes.
They call them plastic worms today. They're really not plastic. They're rubber, more or less, material. But his first one looked like a long, about a 6-inch earthworm. It looked like a long earthworm with that little fat part in the middle. I guess that's the digestive system, I don't know, on a worm. But it looked it was the same color, and it had 2 hooks, and it had little beads up in the front of it, and those 2 hooks were connected with the piece of what we called cat gut. Back in the day, monofilament is what it was,
Yes.
But we called it, people are listening, to young people, like, cat gut, what is old Luke talking about? Monofilament is what is connected. Well, I put that, I didn't have a rod and reel, I had that good bamboo pole. I cut the hook and the weight and took the cork off that thing and tied that Nick Cream, the first plastic worm that came out, folks. That was it. And that was in the 50s. I took that to our farm pond, which was loaded with small, stunted bass. And I took that thing and stuck it out there by a overhanging willow, and just started jerking it along. That's when I caught my first bass on an artificial lure. And it was that old Nick Cream. I found some of those.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, a few years ago. I don't even know where I was. Some tackle store, Brenham's Tackle up there in Red River County. Lamar County. That's where I was. And yeah, but you don't see them. And I mean, soft plastics have come so far, you don't need them anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Larry, thank you for coming back. I thought it would be fun for a lot of our younger listeners to hear a couple of old timers talking about how it was back in the 60s and, in the 50s, late 50s. So, thank you for being back. And next week we're going to be back with Campfire Talk and have some more fun. How about that?
Absolutely. Just remind people very quickly, the DSC Summer Show, July 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th at the Gaylord Texan there in Grapevine. Hope to see everybody there. And you're right, we'll be right back here next week.
Friends, this is Luke. If you're looking to refinance a mortgage or maybe buy some rural land or whatever, I want to recommend to you a company that I've had some stellar dealings with. It's Green Lending. Now, you can go online to greenlending.com. I'm going to give you the name of a guy that helped me tremendously, Jack Hamill, and I'm going to give you Jack's number. Give Jack a call if you want to refinance or you want to buy some rural land or whatever. Jack's number there at Green Lending is 440-223-2086. Or just go to greenlending.com and check it out. It's a great company. I had some wonderful dealings with them, and most of it was done online.
Big Sam left Seattle in the year of 92 with George Pratt, his partner, and brother Billy too. They crossed the
Friends, this segment is made possible by Platinum Cadillac and Chevrolet in Terrell, Texas. Stop by and visit with my buddy Mr. Justin Rudd and his team of experts and let them put you in a new Chevy pickup or a Cadillac or whatever you might be in the market for. Also, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma. Check them out at ChoctawHuntingLodge.com. Also made possible by Pyramid Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, folks, Mr. Whitetail, Larry's been with me 20 years on this show. We've hunted and fished together a lot, all over. And some of the interesting information that he put out. But it's time to talk some fishing now with J.C. McCullough. Now, J.C., I fished with J.C. the first time 40 years ago. J.C., thanks for being with us, buddy.
Yes, sir.
I don't know. I was trying to remember. We fished the Red River in the airboats. We fished Cedar Creek. We fished Ray Roberts together. You've been guiding over 40 years now, haven't you?
Yes, sir. 46 to be exact.
Yeah, and we've hunted together, ducks and deer. It's been a while since we've had a chance to get together, but very soon, matter of days, we're going to be I'm going to get out there on the Red River with you and fish for catfish downstream from the dam. And I guess we could kind of concentrate on that on our first segment. I want to get you back after we talk a little bit and take a break, but catfishing has been really, really good. Tell folks why, in your opinion, why catfishing is so good down below the dam there at Texoma in the river.
Well, Luke, them fish come up there every time they generate. That's just like a dinner bill, come 5 o'clock in the evening. These fish, when they generate, all these catfish come up the river, the stripers come with them, but most of the catfish, they're there to feed when the water's running. So when they turn the water off, them catfish just kind of fall back down to the hose where they come up from, but lots of them stay right there. Mm-hmm. So fishing just unbelievable. Right now they're getting ready to spawn, so there's lots of them up there.
Yeah. So all stripers, catfish, all fish gravitate to moving water. I know
yes,
that.
Sir.
So
yep.
I was over the bridge there on Highway 75, just a matter of a few days ago, and I noticed off to the east, off to the right there, there's a lot of sandbars and all that. When
pretty dry.
It was. But after a rain or whatever, you never know when the Corps of Engineers is going to release water, but they do spasmodically release water, and I guess when they do, that current that pushes downstream pulls a bunch of fish from downriver.
They know exactly when that siren goes off. I mean, it's just like going out feeding hogs. They know when you're going to feed them, you know.
Yeah, and then they'll come up, and then a lot of them, those deeper. I remember fishing there with you years ago, just below the dam, you know, in the roped off area. Then you can only go so far back up toward the dam, and right up close there's some deeper holes. It seems like I remember we used to fish together. You know?
Yeah, the holes run about 3-4 miles apart.
Okay.
You know, then you got to run 4 or 5 inches of water and rock and trees, everything else to get to the hose. Mostly sand and rock. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So them fish are stuck in the hose. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, they literally aren't they, in places?
Yeah, no place to go till they run water.
That's my kind of fishing. You know where they are.
Yes, sir. I like fishing in a barrel.
Fishing in a big old 20-foot deep barrel in a way, JC. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we go, we'll be fishing probably some up, you know, not in the restricted waters, of course, but up there.
No, we'll
close.
be right below it, about half mile.
Uh-huh. So
we'll be fishing about 7-8 feet of water.
Okay, that's one hole, right? Deeper.
Yeah,
hole.
it's one big hole. Yeah, it's probably
and it's
half mile long and eighth of a mile wide.
So a lot of the fish will get to there, and once they're there, they're there. And then I remember going down when we used to fish together in your airboat years back. Also, the old toll bridge or whatever. On downstream.
Yeah, and I remember that one time we put in down at Carpenter's Bluff. That's where me and you fished at one time.
That's the Carpenter's Bluff is where we put in.
Yeah, that was way down. That's 9 miles down the river.
But we don't need to go that far to get these holes.
No, sir, we're going to fish right at the dam.
Yeah, within a couple of miles maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I see people with kayaks and everything else, but I would imagine to get to those holes, you might be doing some dragging on your kayaks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To get on that skinny water like that, you'd probably need to do that. Well, let's talk about catching the catfish. Now, how are you going to set up and what, baits and all that kind of stuff?
Well, we'll be fishing with shad, and we'll free line them shad. A lot of times they want to bite the little live shad better than they do the cut shad, but I carry both kinds, all at one time, so. But 90% of the time, we'll catch them on cut bait.
Okay.
Yeah, they like that fresh blood.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's blue catfish filet mignon. I know that.
Yeah, yep.
So I guess you'll get up to these holes and probably anchor or whatever, and then just put several baits in the water?
Yeah, we'll be fishing in an airboat in case we have to run down the river to go to them. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. To get to the dam area, where most of the people meet you, JC?
A lot of people come down 75. All they got to do is come down 75 no matter where you go. And take Highway 91, Tennyson Dam.
Yes. Uh-huh. And it'll take you to the...
It'll take you down to the spillway, and then you got the Texas side and you have the Oklahoma side, but Oklahoma owns all the water. So.
Yes. Right.
But we'll be putting in on the Oklahoma side, the only place we can put in.
Yeah. Now, as far as license, tell us about that. What kind of license?
Okay. Well, if they're a resident of Oklahoma, all they need is a resident fishing hunting license.
Mm-hmm.
Fishing license for sure.
Yep.
If they're non-resident, a one-day non-resident license is $26.
Fishing here.
Yeah, and then you're good to go anywhere in that river. And actually, it covers you on the lake, too.
Yeah.
Because it's a non-resident license.
Yep. Well, but the special Texoma license.
Yeah, that $12 Texoma license, they won't accept behind the dam. It has to be a one-day non-resident, or you can buy a lifetime for $80-something. I think it's $87.
I got you. Yeah. Well, so you'll meet the people probably a lot of times right there at the parking area there.
I'll meet them right there on the sandbar.
Yeah, And where do they park down there? I haven't been there.
They can park. There's a little parking area right there. But the sand is so hard they can drive right down there to where I'm at too.
Okay.
If they got 4-wheel drive. But
yeah,
it's only like about 25-yard walk from the parking lot to where I pick them up. So.
Oh yeah, it's easy to do.
Yeah, it's an easy deal.
Is time of day really important? Of course, if you're a fisherman, I just want to get started. I like to fish in the morning, but is the fish?
Well, you know, they generate right now. Their schedule is 5 in the morning till 8. So they shut the water off at 8. Then about 2 hours to fall down before it ever gets back down to normal. It's usually when I start, but I can fish with the water falling.
Yeah.
It's no big deal, you know. It may be a little bit slower, but once it gets down to that one level, boy, then they bite.
They're trapped, right? I mean, they're down, they're in those holes. So a common way or common fishing trip, you'll put your airboat in right there below the dam, and then the first good hole is you go through some real skinny water to get there. Thus the reason for the airboat, I'm sure. But
you ain't gonna believe the rocks we got to run over. We go over that you can see is the reason there's no outboards can get in there.
No. So you'll run downstream a half a mile or so, and that's the first fishing hole that you'll hit.
Yeah.
And those fish, actually, when the water recedes and goes down, they're kind of trapped there in a way, aren't they?
Yep, they are. I mean, they can still get, but they're stuck in them holes, you know, till the water runs.
One curious thought here. Do you ever see on that skinny water, you know, you'll have a deep hole that may be, I don't know, 15 foot deep or whatever. Then you'll have a stretch of real thin, shallow water. Do you ever see fish? You ever see them moving up that water, you know, moving through that water?
I do. I've gone down through there. The water's so clear behind the dam, you know. Yeah, I've seen massive schools of catfish. So we just turn around and get back above them and start fishing and catch them.
And that water might be 2 foot deep, right? You know.
Yeah, I can take you down there one night with bow fishing lights, and I can show you just acres of them big catfish just swimming around in a foot of water.
That's amazing. I've never witnessed that at all. But
yeah, that's just a whole different world. People just don't realize that you can go right over top of them catfish. I mean, they'll shy away from the boat when the boat goes over them, you know. But it's just unreal how many there are.
Oh, I can imagine. At night, they make their move probably a lot of times.
Yeah, then all the other rough fish, too, you know. They're in there. They're predators. They just like me and you hunting. They're in there hunting food, you know.
That's right. Well, we're going to take a little break here, JC, and we're going to come back. And, folks, JC, I've hunted with him a lot in years past for deer and ducks, waterfowl. He's been guiding a long time. JC, I saw you one time. And I'll never forget this if I live to be 100. We were on Cedar Creek Lake hunting, public water, of course, duck hunting. I bet that's with that muzzle loader shotgun you had. No, I drove you crazy with that thing. I'm sorry.
Hey, it works. It works.
No, that was not. That was with you with a 12 gauge loaded with steel. I watched JC a cross country pintail. He wasn't about to decoy. He was going somewhere. Knocked that sucker down. I with steel shot. This has been 30 years ago. You were shooting, and that sucker was 60 yards up, and he was going.
I remember that.
I have not forgot that. And he folded, and people think, steel shot. But you probably the lead using that steel, you nailed him. I never will forget that. And the muzzle loader. We'll talk about that a little bit more. I drove a few people crazy with a muzzle loader shotgun back in them days. But let's take a break, JC. And folks, JC McCullough, guiding on the Red River. He's going to be back with us here, and we're going to talk a little hunting. So stay with us. Folks, I want to tell you about one of my long-term partners, and that is Pyramid Air. The website is pyrmydair.com. They're a one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Big bores, little bores, PCP guns, springers, you name it. All different brands, some great airgun supplies, but also a whole lot more. Archery, ammo, optics, shooting and outdoor gear, action sports, all this stuff can be found right there and ordered through Pyramid Air. So remember, go online to pyrmydair.com.
the snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, I've been shooting and hunting with CVA muzzleloaders a long time. They are, in my opinion, the best muzzleloaders on the market. But did you know CVA also makes a very fine line of centerfire rifles, built to last and super accurate? Been hunting with those for several years. Check them both out, the muzzleloaders and the centerfires, online at cva.com. Folks, I want to introduce you to some good friends of mine at Dash for Cash Pawn Shop in Seagoville, Texas, located at 133 Hall Street. The phone number is 972-287-3121. Go by there and talk with Gary or Randy, the owner. They're great people. They've got some great prices. Again, that's the Dash for Cash Pawn Shop, Seagoville, Texas, 972-287-3121. Well, friends, thanks for sticking with us. We're back with fishing and hunting guide J.C. McCullough, whom I have fished and hunted with starting the first time probably 40 years ago when I was a fledgling outdoor rider. J.C., we had a good time in that previous segment talking about river fishing on the Red River below Texoma, and, that's something that's people, if they've never done that and got with you in an airboat, that's something that I would highly recommend doing, something that I'm going to do real soon with you, and we're going to film the trip. Jeff Rice, our part of the intricate part of our Sportsman's Life TV show, Jeff's going to come with us. We're going to film this thing too. But let's talk hunting a little bit, because we've had some big times hunting together in the past too,
We have.
So let's think about deer hunting. Now, I know that on public land you can't guide, but
No, sir.
Tell us about, you've got some awesome hunting up there in southern Oklahoma, and I know you well enough. You get in the back country where the deer are. Tell us about the way the deer hunting is up there in Oklahoma.
Well, Luke, I got stands everywhere, mostly where most people can't get because we get there by boat. So, I can put them in a stand where there's lots of deer. They ain't going to have no problem whatsoever seeing deer.
Yeah.
They do their part, the deer do theirs.
Yes. Yep.
But I can't guide them, but I can put them where they are,
Yes. Yep. And see, that's the kicker right there.
Is knowing where they are.
Knowing where they are, and then access to them. Because I guess there's places that you've got set up, probably not, obviously not too far from the river, probably walking distance,
Well, I got them on the river, and I got them around just all over, Yeah. And it's all bow hunting only, the only thing I have.
Yeah.
If we're on the upper river, they can hunt with a gun.
Mm-hmm. Now, upper river, what area roughly?
That's the Red River above the lake, where the Red River comes in.
Okay.
So that'd be up around Lebanon, all that up in there.
Yes, sir. Okay. Well, tell me, is that as far as areas, does it matter as far as the bow hunting area compared to the rifle area? Is what I'm thinking, you're going to be pretty much, if you're accessing some of this backcountry by boat, you're not going to be overcrowded, I wouldn't think, with hunters.
No. The hunters can't get to where I'm at unless they're hunting by boat, which there is a few that do that, but not very many. Most of them walk in.
Yes, yep, and then that'd be a long hike to get in there and fight by daylight. Okay.
Yeah, then they educate the deer more than they do anything. They'll hunt when the wind's wrong, and that's the world's worst mistake,
You better believe it. And
I have places, no matter which way the wind blows, I'm set up for it, so it don't make no difference. I'll get them in there and get them out.
How does a hunt usually unfold? You'll get them in there before daylight, I'm sure.
Yeah, we try to get in there an hour before.
Yep, and then I'm of course you're their ticket out of there too, because
I'm the only way out of there.
If without JC, you're going to be walking a lot of riverbank to get down to Highway 75 probably. Anyway, so you come back a certain time. You tell them you'll be back in there to pick them up, I guess.
Yeah, I'll put them in there out before daylight, and I mean, all the deer are usually just like anything else. They come in there when the sun comes up. I mean, they're in there about 8 o'clock every time. You may not see nothing, but you'll hear them. But 8 o'clock, you'll see them. It's just like never fails. It's just like, don't ask me why. That's just the way it is.
I understand. There's a lot of things.
Well, you've been a bow hunter all your life, you know.
I have. Honestly, not all my life. I was, but since the age of 30, you know, I've been. Yeah. I hunt with a lot of stuff. Hunt with air guns, big bore air guns a lot now, JC. So.
Oh, I know that big 22 deal.
Yeah, it's a 50 caliber, big old, shoots a 385 grain slug. I killed a nice buck last year with it. But anyway, so you'll pick them back up at a certain time. Y'all will set, I guess. You'll be back.
Yeah, then I'll put them back that evening, you know.
Yeah, and then go eat lunch or something during the middle of the day.
They got time, lay down, rest.
Or just take it easy, yeah.
Just take it easy.
I like that idea better, you know, than running around a bunch. Kick back in the middle of the day, take you a sandwich or whatever. Okay, now as far as this may sound like a loaded question, but what, you know, are some good mature bucks in that area? I'm going to assume some of them are not even hunted up in that country. You know, you kill some good deer, I guess.
Yeah, you know, I've killed some 200-inch deer, so you don't get much better than that.
I've never killed a buck that big. I've killed
my biggest buck is 205 7/8 come off public land.
Yeah, is it pretty common to kill a 130 class buck or
I mean, I have a bunch of deer right now. They're all going to be 4 and 5 year old this year, so they're ready to go. You know, I mean, it ain't going to be nothing to kill a 150-inch deer. I mean, just being there and doing your part, you know, you got to be quiet, not be moving around.
You got to hunt, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You got to hunt. I mean, they don't get big by being dumb.
That is an absolute, yeah, that's a fact. So, I guess I've got to where I don't, I quit hunting in trees. Oh, I hunt out of a ladder stand some, but I hunt a lot.
That's what we're hunting out of. I got them mostly up in cedar trees. That cedar tree will cover some of your mistakes, you know.
You bet, the branches and the scent, too.
Yeah, you get up there and you break a little limb off, then you got that cedar scent right there. And I mean, you're pretty much covered, you know. Exactly.
You bet. Well, and then there, I guess you would need an Oklahoma license.
Yeah, you'll need Oklahoma license. I mean.
Yeah, and
if you're out of state, they'll have to buy that out of state license. It's going up now, but I mean, if you're a bow hunter, that's the only way I hunt is bow hunt. I mean, I'm a really good shot with a gun, as well as you know.
You are that, yes.
I'm probably one of the best there is, even with a rifle. I mean, I see something 400 or 500 yards away, I just shoot it. They like, "Wow, you didn't even aim at that." I said, "Oh yeah, I just do it quick. You know, I ain't wasting no time."
Right. Yeah, it might not stay around long. No question about that, JC. I'll tell you on a light side, a funny side here. We'd mentioned earlier the muzzleloader. For about several years, CVA is one of my sponsors, the muzzleloader. They also make a fine line of centerfire rifles, the Cascade, which is really good. When I'm using the centerfire, I use that. But back in the day, I had a double barrel muzzleloading shotgun, and it seemed like every time we went hunting, it was misty, rainy. Duck hunting is what I'm talking about. And I swear I wouldn't do that again. I just wouldn't. It was I was young and full of vinegar, you know. I didn't mind doing it, but it was a challenge keeping that sucker where it would go off every time. I did kill a few ducks, but we hammered them. We hammered the waterfowl with steel shot. You still do do some duck hunting too, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Yep, still involved with that.
Still doing it. Do a little crane hunting.
Yeah. Where do you hunt those now? You know.
Out in western Oklahoma, up around Enid.
Yeah, the sand hills.
Yeah, they come off that Salt Plains up there. I know you heard of that Salt Plains Refuge.
Yes.
It just has thousands and thousands of cranes, and boy, and them farmers up there hate them.
They can clean up some grain.
Oh man, they destroy their farmland. I mean, they just scratch all the weed out just scratch it out of the ground.
Well, let's talk about crane hunting. That'll be taking place December, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, December.
It starts a little bit earlier than that here. I mean,
yeah.
I'd have to get the book out and tell you exactly, but.
Well, maybe we'll plan us to get up there with you when you got some crane hunters sometime. And
I got a place for us to go.
Yeah. Well, we'll try. Well, that's so many opportunities there, man. But the crane, sandhills, I haven't shot a sandhill crane in 10 years. But
man, that's the ribeyes in the sky. That's the best eating in the waterfowl, as far as I'm concerned.
They are very good.
Yeah.
Good as a speckled, maybe better than a speckled belly goose. And I like speckled bellies if you know how to. The whole trick.
Yeah, we kill a lot of them up on the refuge.
Yeah. The whole kicker on waterfowl. My wife's Jack Holland was a famous coastal waterfowl guy. That was my wife's cousin's husband, Jack Holland. He told me, and my wife's cousin, the lady, cooked a lot, and she said the whole key is getting the blood out of the breast meat on these things. And she'd actually squeeze it like a goose breast, get all the blood out, let it soak in some salt water. But they're good eating. I absolutely love those sandhills. Well, JC, it was good to reconnect with you. Great to have you on our show, and look forward to getting out there on that river with you and hooking up with some of them old catfish, especially the blues, the good eaters. And I like to keep every now and then get you on, keep people tuned in to what you're doing. Most of your stuff is near the Red River, Oklahoma, Texas, mostly Oklahoma.
I'll get you back down here in a tree with me sometime.
You dang right, buddy. Well, thanks a lot for being with us, and look forward to that trip coming up here in a matter of days. We're going to have some fun.
I can't wait. I'm ready now.
Me too. I'm fired up after talking to you. Well, be safe, JC. And how about drop that phone number again? We've got time to do that.
Luke, they can reach me at JC's Guide Service, 580-372-0320.
Thank you, buddy. And then, folks, any of our guests, if you want to contact me through catfishradio.org, I'll be happy to hook you up with them. Till this time next week, friends, be safe out there in the outdoors. Friends, I hope you've enjoyed our show. This is our 20th year to be doing Catfish Radio, and I enjoy doing it now probably more than I did when I first began. It's lots of fun every week. But I want to tell you about a destination, one of my favorite destinations, and it's the Choctaw Hunting Lodge. It's up in southeast Oklahoma, maybe an hour north of Paris. I don't think it's that far, but it's an awesome place. You can go online to ChoctawHuntingLodge.com and check it out. Beautiful lodge there. Trophy deer hunting on thousands of acres of Choctaw tribal land up there. It's just, if you ever go up there, you will return. A lot of eastern turkey in that part of the country. And probably our closest destination for many Texans to have a real chance to kill an eastern turkey. So that's got that going on. Exotic hunting, hog hunting. If you're an outdoor person, you'd love a visit there at the Choctaw Hunting Lodge. Folks, we are out of time. Make sure and tune in next week and be safe in the outdoors.